Hi everyone, I'm Madison, and I need to share the most insane story that happened to me last month. I still can't believe I lived through this nightmare, but here we are. You know how they say truth is stranger than fiction? Well, buckle up, because this story involves family betrayal, fake deaths, and the most satisfying revenge I've ever pulled off. Before I start, let me paint you a picture of my life 6 months ago. I was 28, living in Sacramento, California, working as a marketing coordinator for a tech startup. I had what I thought was the perfect relationship with my fiancé, Trevor Whitman. We'd been together for 3 years, engaged for 8 months, and our wedding was supposed to be in 2 weeks. Trevor was everything I thought I wanted. Charming, successful, worked in finance, drove a BMW, and treated me like a queen. Or so I thought. My family loved him, especially my older brother Carson, who's 31 and works as a real estate agent. Carson and Trevor became best friends almost instantly, which should have been my first red flag. I'd love to know which corner of the globe you're watching from, and if this story speaks to you, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's video is one you absolutely can't miss. The nightmare began on a Tuesday evening. I was supposed to meet Trevor for dinner at our favorite Italian restaurant in downtown Sacramento, but he texted saying he had to work late. Nothing unusual there. Finance guys work crazy hours. So I decided to surprise him with his favorite coffee and some homemade cookies. I drove to his office building on J Street, but when I got there, the security guard told me Trevor had left hours ago. That's when the pit in my stomach started forming. I called him, and it went straight to voicemail. I tried texting. Nothing. Now, I'm not usually the paranoid type, but something felt off. I decided to drive by his apartment, and that's when I saw his BMW parked outside. The lights were on, and I could see shadows moving around inside. I thought maybe he was sick, or something had happened. I used my key to let myself in, calling out his name as I climbed the stairs. Trevor? Babe? Are you okay? The apartment was quiet except for some music coming from the bedroom. I pushed open the door, and there they were. My fiancé Trevor was in bed with my brother Carson. I stood there, frozen, watching my entire world crumble. They were so wrapped up in each other that they didn't even notice me at first. When Carson finally looked up and saw me, his face went white as a sheet. Madison, we can explain. Explain what exactly? I managed to choke out. Explain how my brother is sleeping with my fiancé 2 weeks before my wedding. Trevor sat up, not even looking ashamed. Madison, I'm sorry you had to find out this way. Find out what way? That you're gay? That you've been lying to me for 3 years? That my own brother has been stabbing me in the back? What happened next still makes my blood boil. Carson, my own flesh and blood, had the audacity to say, Madison, you have to understand. We didn't plan this. It just happened. We're in love. You're in love? I laughed, but it came out more like a sob. You're in love, and you decided to let me plan a wedding. Spend thousands of dollars, invite 150 people, all while you two were having your little affair behind my back. Trevor finally showed some emotion, but it wasn't remorse. It was annoying. Look, Madison, I never meant to hurt you, but I can't keep pretending to be something I'm not. I thought I could go through with the marriage, but I can't. So you were going to marry me while secretly being with my brother. What was the plan, Trevor? A lifetime of lies? I left that night and went straight to my best friend Sarah's house. Sarah Patterson has been my rock since college, and she was just as shocked as I was. She held me while I cried, and then she got angry. Those bastards, she said, pacing around her living room. How long do you think this has been going on? I don't know, and I don't want to know, I sobbed. Sarah, what am I going to do? The wedding is in 2 weeks. I have to call everyone, cancel everything, explain to my parents why their son is a backstabbing piece of— Hey, slow down, Sarah interrupted. First things first. Are you sure you want to cancel the wedding? Because I have an idea that might be better. I looked at her like she was crazy. What do you mean? I mean, why should you be the one humiliated? Why should you be the one who has to explain to everyone that your fiancé left you for your brother? Make them do the explaining. The next morning, I drove to my parents' house in Elk Grove. My mom, Patricia, was in the kitchen making coffee, and my dad, Robert, was reading the newspaper. They looked so happy, so normal, and I was about to destroy that. Mom, Dad, I need to tell you something about Carson and Trevor. My mother's face immediately fell. Oh, honey, what's wrong? You look terrible. I told them everything. My father, who's usually the calm one, started pacing and muttering under his breath. My mother just kept shaking her head, saying, I can't believe this. I can't believe this. Where are they now? My father asked. I don't know, Dad. I haven't talked to either of them since last night. That's when my phone rang. It was Carson. Madison. Please, we need to talk. Can you meet me at the coffee shop on Folsom Boulevard? Against my better judgment, I agreed. My parents wanted to come with me, but I told them I needed to handle this myself. Carson was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth, looking like he hadn't slept. Good. I hoped he felt as miserable as I did. Madison, thank you for coming. He started, but I cut him off. Don't thank me, Carson. Just explain. Explain how my own brother could do this to me. I never meant for this to happen. Trevor and we just connected. When did it start? I demanded. He looked down at his coffee. About 6 months ago. 6 months? I felt like I was going to throw up. You've been lying to me for 6 months. We tried to stop it, Madison. We really did. But we couldn't help how we felt. You tried to stop it? Carson, you could have told me. You could have been honest instead of letting me plan a wedding to a man who doesn't even want me. We were going to tell you after the wedding. After the wedding? You were going to let me marry him and then tell me? Carson had the decency to look ashamed. We thought maybe if he went through with it, he could learn to love you the way you deserve. Learn to love me? Carson, do you hear yourself? You were going to let me marry a man who's in love with someone else, and that someone else is my own brother. Madison, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I love him, and he loves me. We want to be together. Then be together, I said, standing up. But don't expect me to be happy about it, and don't expect me to make this easy for you. What do you mean? I mean, Carson, that you and Trevor have created this mess, and you're going to have to live with the consequences. You want to be together? Fine. But you're going to explain to everyone why my wedding is off. You're going to tell Mom and Dad, you're going to tell all our relatives, and you're going to tell all our friends. Madison, that's not fair. Not fair? I laughed bitterly. What's not fair is what you did to me. What's not fair is that I have to cancel vendors, return gifts, and explain to 150 people why there's no wedding. What's not fair is that my own brother betrayed me. I started to leave, but then I turned back. Oh, and Carson, you're not welcome at family dinners anymore. You made your choice. I thought that was the end of it. I thought I'd cancel the wedding, deal with the embarrassment, and try to move on with my life. But Trevor and Carson had other plans. 3 days later, I got a call from Sarah. She was crying. Madison, you need to sit down. What's wrong now? It's about Trevor. There's been an accident. My heart stopped. Despite everything, I still cared about him. What kind of accident? He's dead, Madison. Carson called me. He said Trevor was driving to Los Angeles for work, and his car went off the road near Bakersfield. He's dead. I couldn't process what she was saying. Dead? Trevor's dead? I'm so sorry, honey. I know this is complicated with everything that happened. But Carson wanted you to know, the funeral is going to be on Saturday. I hung up the phone and just sat there. Trevor was dead. The man I'd loved for 3 years, the man who'd broken my heart, was gone. I felt guilty for being angry at him, guilty for not forgiving him before he died. Carson called me later that day. He was sobbing on the phone. Madison, I know you hate me, but I just lost the love of my life. I can't do this alone. Carson, please, just for the funeral. Can we put our differences aside? Just for one day. A lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. If you're enjoying it, we'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to our channel. Now back to where we left off. Against my better judgment, I agreed. The funeral was set for Saturday at Henderson Memorial Chapel in Sacramento. I decided to go, not for Carson, but for closure. But here's where the story gets really crazy. The night before the funeral, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Trevor, about what could have been, about all the lies and betrayal. I decided to go for a drive to clear my head. I was driving through downtown Sacramento when I saw him. Trevor. Very much alive, walking into a 24-hour diner on Broadway with some guy I didn't recognize. I pulled over, my hands shaking. Was I losing my mind? Was I seeing things? I sat in my car for 20 minutes, watching through the window. It was definitely Trevor. Same hair, same build, same way of gesturing when he talked. I called Sarah. Sarah, I think I'm going crazy. What's wrong? I just saw Trevor. He's alive, Sarah. He's in a diner on Broadway right now. Madison, honey, you're grieving. Sometimes our minds play tricks on us. No, Sarah. I know what I saw. He's alive. Madison. Carson showed me the death certificate. There was a car accident. Trevor is dead. But I knew what I saw. I drove home, but I didn't sleep. I spent the entire night online, searching for any information about Trevor's supposed accident. I found the news report, a car accident near Bakersfield, 1 fatality, but they didn't release the name pending family notification. The next morning, I called the California Highway Patrol office in Bakersfield. Hi, I'm calling about the car accident that happened 3 days ago. I believe my fiancé might have been involved. Ma'am, I can't release information about ongoing investigations. Please, I just need to know. His name was Trevor Whitman. There was a pause. Ma'am, can you please? After 5 minutes, the officer came back online. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but we don't have any record of Trevor Whitman being involved in any accidents in the past week. My heart started racing. Are you sure? There was supposedly an accident on Tuesday night. A single car went off the road. Ma'am, there was an accident Tuesday night, but the victim was a 45-year-old man named James Rodriguez. There was no Trevor Whitman. I hung up and immediately called the morgue in Bakersfield. Same story. No Trevor Whitman. Then I called Henderson Memorial Chapel. Hi, I'm calling about the funeral service for Trevor Whitman scheduled for today. I'm sorry, ma'am, but we don't have any services scheduled for Trevor Whitman. That's impossible, my brother arranged it. Carson Mitchell? Let me check our records. I'm sorry, but we don't have any arrangements made by Carson Mitchell either. I was shaking now. What the hell was going on? I called Carson. Carson, where is Trevor's funeral? Madison, I thought you knew. We moved it to Sunset Memorial Gardens. Henderson had a scheduling conflict. Carson, I just called Henderson. They said there was never a funeral scheduled for Trevor. There was a long pause. Madison, you must have called the wrong place. The funeral is at 2 p.m. Are you coming or not? I'll be there. But first, I had one more call to make. I called Sarah. Sarah, I need you to do something for me. I need you to go to that diner on Broadway and see if Trevor is there. Madison, this is getting out of hand. Please, Sarah, just do this one thing for me. An hour later, Sarah called me back. Madison, I went to the diner. I asked the staff if they'd seen anyone matching Trevor's description. The waitress said there was a guy there last night who looked exactly like the picture I showed her, but he was with another man and they seemed to be celebrating something. Celebrating? That's what she said. They were laughing, drinking champagne, and acting like they were celebrating. I got to Sunset Memorial Gardens at 1:30 p.m. There were about 30 people there, mostly Trevor's coworkers and a few family members. I noticed Carson standing by the casket, playing the grieving boyfriend perfectly, but here's the thing. I knew Trevor was alive. I'd seen him, The police had no record of his death, and now I was at his funeral. The pieces were starting to come together. Trevor had faked his death to escape our marriage and be with my brother. But why the elaborate funeral? Why not just disappear? I was about to find out. The service started, and Carson gave a beautiful eulogy about his dear friend, Trevor. He talked about how Trevor was taken too soon, how he had so much life left to live. He even cried. My own brother was standing in front of 30 people, lying about a fake death. But then I saw him, in the back row, wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap, was Trevor. He was actually at his own funeral. I couldn't believe the audacity. Not only had he faked his death, but he had the nerve to show up and watch everyone mourn him. That's when I decided to make my move. I stood up during the part where they ask if anyone wants to say something about the deceased. I'd like to say something about Trevor, I announced. Carson looked panicked. Madison, I don't think. No, Carson, I think everyone should know the truth about Trevor Whitman. I walked to the front of the chapel and turned to face the small crowd. Trevor was still in the back, probably thinking I couldn't see him. Trevor Whitman was a liar, I began. He was a man who made promises he never intended to keep. He was a man who betrayed the people who loved him most. People were shifting uncomfortably. Carson was trying to motion for me to sit down. But the most interesting thing about Trevor, I continued, is that he's not actually dead. Gasps filled the room. Carson went white. That's right, everyone. The man we're here to mourn is very much alive. In fact, he's sitting in the back row right now. All heads turned to look at Trevor, who was now trying to sink into his seat. Trevor, why don't you come up here and explain to everyone how you faked your own death? Trevor had no choice. He slowly walked to the front of the chapel, removing his sunglasses and baseball cap. The gasps turned into angry murmurs. I can explain, he said weakly. Oh, please do, I said, crossing my arms. Explain to everyone how you and my brother cooked up this elaborate scheme to fake your death so you wouldn't have to face the consequences of your actions. Carson stepped forward. Madison, stop. You're making a scene. I'm making a scene? Carson, you organized a funeral for a man who isn't dead. You made me believe that someone I loved was gone. You make me feel guilty for being angry at a dead man. I turned back to the crowd. 2 weeks ago, I caught my fiancé in bed with my brother. Rather than face the music, rather than deal with the embarrassment of calling off our wedding, they decided to fake Trevor's death. They thought it would be easier for everyone if Trevor just disappeared. But why the funeral? Someone called out. Because, I said, looking at Carson, they needed to make it look real. They needed people to see Carson grieving, to see me at the funeral, to make it believable. They probably planned to have Trevor come back from the dead in a few months with a new identity. Trevor finally spoke up. Madison, it wasn't supposed to happen like this. What wasn't supposed to happen? Getting caught? Because that's the only thing that went wrong with your plan. We were going to tell you. When, Trevor? When were you going to tell me? After I spent months grieving you. After I blamed myself for not forgiving you before you died. But here's the best part of the story. Remember how I said this was the most satisfying revenge I've ever pulled off? Well, I wasn't done. Since we're all here, I announced, and since Trevor is very much alive, I have someone I'd like you all to meet. I walked to the back of the chapel and opened the door. I walked Marcus Thompson, a guy I'd met on a dating app 2 weeks ago. He was tall, handsome, and absolutely nothing like Trevor. Everyone, this is Marcus, my new boyfriend. Marcus, this is everyone, including my very much alive ex-fiancé and my backstabbing brother. Marcus played his part perfectly. Nice to meet you all. Madison's told me so much about you. The look on Carson's face was priceless. The look on Trevor's face was even better. Madison, what are you doing? Carson hissed. I'm moving on with my life, Carson. Since you and Trevor are so happy together, I figured I should be happy too. I turned to address the crowd one more time. I'm sorry you all had to witness this circus, but I thought you deserved to know the truth. Trevor Whitman is alive. He's gay, he's been having an affair with my brother, and he faked his death to avoid taking responsibility for his actions. Marcus and I walked out of the chapel together, leaving behind the chaos of Trevor's fake funeral. As we got to the parking lot, I could hear shouting from inside the chapel. "Madison," Marcus said. "That was incredible. Are you okay?" "I'm better than okay," I said. "I'm free." The chaos inside that chapel was unlike anything I'd ever witnessed. After Marcus and I walked out, we could hear shouting, crying, and what sounded like chairs being thrown around. But we weren't done yet. Marcus looked at me with admiration. "Madison, that was the most badass thing I've ever seen anyone do. But are you sure you're okay with all this?" "Marcus, I've never been more sure of anything in my life. But stay close. I have a feeling this isn't over." I was right. Carson came bursting out of the chapel, his face red with rage. "Madison, you can't just humiliate us like this in front of everyone." "Humiliate you?" I laughed. "Carson, you humiliated yourself when you decided to sleep with my fiancé, and then fake his death. I just exposed the truth." Trevor emerged next, looking like he wanted to disappear into the ground. "Madison, please, can we talk about this privately?" "Privately?" I turned to face him. "You mean like how you privately decided to fake your own death rather than face me? You mean like how you privately attended your own funeral to watch people grieve for you?" That's when Trevor's supposed co-worker, Jake Morrison, approached us. "Excuse me, but what the hell is going on here? I took time off work to come to my friend's funeral, and now you're telling me he's not dead." "That's exactly what I'm telling you, Jake," I said. "Your friend Trevor here thought it would be easier to fake his death than to admit he's gay and having an affair with my brother." Jake's face went from confusion to anger. "Trevor, is this true?" Trevor couldn't even look at him. "Jake, I can explain." "Explain what?" "That you made all of us believe you were dead, that you let us grieve for you." "I called your mother, Trevor. I told her I was sorry for her loss." That's when things got really interesting. Jake's mention of Trevor's mother made me realize something. "Trevor, does your family know you're dead?" Trevor's face went pale. "Madison, please don't." "Oh my God, they don't know, do they? Your parents, your sister Emily in Portland, they all think you're dead." "Madison, stop," Carson pleaded. "You're taking this too far." "Too far?" "Carson, how is this too far? This man has let his entire family believe he's dead. Do you realize how sick that is?" I pulled out my phone. "What's your mother's number, Trevor?" "Madison. No, please. Give me her number, or I'll find it myself." Trevor looked at Carson desperately, but Carson was now realizing the full scope of what they'd done. "Trevor, we have to tell them. We can't let your family think you're dead." "Carson's right," I said. "This has gone way beyond just avoiding our wedding. You've traumatized your entire family." That's when Trevor broke down completely. "You don't understand," he sobbed. "My parents would never accept that I'm gay. They're very religious, very conservative. When Carson and I fell in love, I knew I could never tell them the truth. So you decided to fake your death instead?" Marcus asked, speaking up for the first time. "It seemed like the only way," Trevor said. "If I was dead, they'd grieve, but they'd never have to know the truth about who I really am." I stared at him in disbelief. "Trevor, do you hear yourself? You'd rather have your parents think you're dead than know you're gay." "You don't know what it's like," he said defensively. "You don't know what it's like to disappoint your parents, to know they'd rather have a dead son than a gay son." "You're right. I don't know what that's like," I said. "But I do know what it's like to be betrayed by someone I trusted. And I know what it's like to be manipulated and lied to." Against Trevor's protests, I called his mother. I'd met Linda Whitman several times during our relationship, and she was a sweet woman who absolutely adored her son. "Mrs. Whitman, this is Madison, Trevor's fiancée." "Oh, Madison." Her voice was full of pain. "I'm so sorry, dear. I know how much you loved him. The funeral was beautiful." My heart broke for her. Mrs. Whitman, I need to tell you something important. Trevor is alive. There was a long silence. What did you say? Trevor is alive. He faked his death. He's standing right here next to me. That's impossible. We saw the death certificate. Carson showed us. Mrs. Whitman, the death certificate is fake. Trevor is alive, and he's been lying to everyone. I handed the phone to Trevor. Tell her yourself. With shaking hands, Trevor took the phone. Mom? I could hear her screaming through the phone. Trevor? Trevor? Is that really you? Oh my God, Trevor, we thought you were dead. We had a memorial service for you. Your father cried for the first time in 20 years. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry? Sorry? Trevor, do you have any idea what you've put us through? Your sister flew in from Portland. Your grandparents came from Arizona. We've all been grieving for you. Mom, I can explain. You better have a damn good explanation, Trevor Whitman, because I have never been so angry in my entire life. Trevor looked at Carson desperately, but Carson was now backing away, realizing he wanted no part of this phone call. Mom, I'm in love with Carson, and I didn't know how to tell you. The silence on the other end was deafening. Finally, Linda spoke, her voice broken. Trevor, you thought I would rather have a dead son than a gay son. I didn't know what to think. Trevor, I love you no matter what. You're my son. Yes, this is a shock, and yes, it's going to take some adjustment, but I would never ever want you to be dead rather than gay. Trevor was crying now. Mom, I'm so sorry. I made such a terrible mistake. You made more than a mistake. Trevor, you traumatized your entire family. Your father has been drinking himself to sleep every night since we got the news. Your sister Emily has been so depressed she can't get out of bed. And your grandparent, Trevor, your grandfather had a heart attack from the shock. He's in the hospital right now. Trevor's face went white. What? That's right. Your grandfather is in the cardiac unit at Providence Medical Center because he couldn't handle the news of your death. And now I have to call him and tell him his grandson is actually alive, but just decided to fake his death instead of being honest with his family. The weight of what Trevor had done was finally hitting him. He wasn't just some guy who'd cheated on his fiancée and faked his death to avoid confrontation. He was a man who'd traumatized his entire family, put his grandfather in the hospital, and caused unimaginable pain to people who loved him. Mrs. Whitman, I said, taking the phone back, I'm so sorry you had to find out this way. Madison, honey, this is not your fault. You did the right thing by calling me. I can't imagine what you've been going through. It's been a nightmare, I admitted. But I'm getting through it. Are you at the funeral right now? Yes, ma'am. We're all here. Me, Trevor, Carson, and about 30 other people who thought they were mourning a dead man. Put me on speaker, she said. I want to talk to everyone. I put the phone on speaker and held it up. Linda Whitman's voice carried across the parking lot. To everyone who attended my son's fake funeral today, she began, her voice shaking with emotion. I want you to know that the Whitman family had no idea about this deception. We are horrified, embarrassed, and heartbroken by what Trevor has done. People from the funeral had started gathering around us, listening intently. Trevor, she continued, you are going to get on a plane today and come home. You are going to apologize to your father, your sister, and your grandparents. You are going to explain to everyone why you put us through this hell. Mom, I'm not finished. Carson, I don't know you very well, but I know you helped my son fake his death. You are not welcome in our home until you can explain why you thought this was acceptable. Carson looked like he wanted to crawl into a hole. And to everyone else, Linda continued, I am deeply sorry that you were deceived. Please know that we will be making donations to local charities in lieu of the flowers and condolences we received for our son's fake death. She hung up, and we all stood there in stunned silence. Just when I thought things couldn't get more complicated, a police car pulled into the parking lot. 2 officers got out and approached our group. Are you Trevor Whitman? Officer Jennifer Hayes asked. Yes, Trevor said nervously. Sir, we need to talk to you about filing a false police report. What false police report? The report of your death, sir. We have records showing that someone called in a fatal car accident with your name as the victim. Trevor and Carson exchanged panicked looks. Officers, I said, I think you'll find that these two men orchestrated an elaborate scheme to fake Trevor's death. Officer Hayes pulled out her notebook. Ma'am, can you explain what you mean? I told the officers everything. How I'd discovered the affair, how they'd announced Trevor's death, how I'd investigated and found no record of any accident, and how we'd all ended up at a funeral for a man who was very much alive. Mr. Whitman, Officer Hayes's partner, Officer David Chen said, filing a false police report is a misdemeanor offense. Creating false documents is also illegal. Officers, I never filed any police report, Trevor said quickly. Then, who did? Officer Hayes asked. All eyes turned to Carson. His face was bright red. I may have called and reported an accident, he mumbled. You may have. Okay. I did call, but I didn't think it was illegal. Mr. Mitchell, Officer Chen said, you called and reported a fatal car accident that never happened, with a victim who is standing right here alive. How did you think that wasn't illegal? I was just trying to help Trevor, Carson said desperately. Help him what? Commit fraud? That's when Jake Morrison spoke up. Officers, there's more. Trevor's employer believes he's dead. They've probably already processed his life insurance. Officer Hayes looked at Trevor. Sir, do you have life insurance through your employer? Trevor nodded miserably. And has anyone filed a claim on that policy? I don't know. Mr. Whitman, if someone has filed a life insurance claim on your behalf while you're alive, that's insurance fraud. That's a felony. Trevor looked like he was about to faint. I never meant for it to go this far. Sir, you're going to need to come with us to the station. We need to straighten this out before it gets worse. As it turned out, Trevor's situation was even more complicated than anyone had imagined. His employer, Pacific Financial Group, had indeed begun processing his life insurance claim. The beneficiary, Carson Mitchell. When the police discovered this, Carson was arrested on the spot for insurance fraud. I didn't know, Carson protested as they put him in handcuffs. I didn't know Trevor had named me as his beneficiary. Mr. Mitchell, Officer Hayes said, you reported a fake death to the police, organized a fake funeral, and stood to collect $250,000 in life insurance benefits. You're going to have a hard time convincing a jury that you didn't know what you were doing. Trevor was also arrested, but he was released on his own recognizance after agreeing to cooperate with the investigation. I watched them take Carson away in the police car, and I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no revenge, no sadness, just emptiness. Sarah arrived just as the police were leaving. Madison, I got here as fast as I could. I saw the police cars and, oh my God, is that Trevor? Yeah, it's Trevor, very much alive and very much in trouble. What happened? I filled her in on everything that had transpired. By the time I finished, Sarah was shaking her head in disbelief. Madison, I knew they were idiots, but I never imagined they were this stupid. Sarah, they didn't just betray me. They traumatized Trevor's entire family. They committed fraud, and they put Trevor's grandfather in the hospital. How are you feeling about all this? I thought about it for a moment. Honestly, I feel like I dodged a bullet. If Trevor was willing to fake his own death rather than have an honest conversation with me, what kind of marriage would we have had? What I didn't expect was for the story to go viral. Someone at the funeral had recorded the whole confrontation on their phone, and by the next morning, the video was everywhere. Woman exposes fiancé's fake death at his own funeral was trending on Twitter. The video had been viewed over 2 million times in less than 24 hours. My phone was ringing constantly. News stations, talk shows, podcasts. Everyone wanted to interview me. Madison, Sarah said, you've become famous overnight. This is insane, I said, looking at my phone. I have interview requests from Good Morning America, The Today Show, and Dr. Phil. Are you going to do any of them? I don't know. Part of me wants to just disappear and let this blow over. But another part of me thinks maybe sharing my story could help other people who are dealing with betrayal. I ended up doing a few interviews, including one with a local news station that really resonated with people. Madison, the reporter asked, do you regret exposing Trevor and Carson so publicly? No, I said. They made their choices, and I made mine. They chose to lie, to deceive, and to hurt people. I chose to tell the truth. If that embarrasses them, that's a consequence of their actions, not mine. What would you say to other people who are dealing with betrayal? I'd say that you don't have to be a victim. You don't have to accept bad treatment just because it comes from someone you love. You have the power to choose how you respond to betrayal. Carson's trial was held 3 months later. He was charged with filing a false police report and attempted insurance fraud. Trevor testified against him, which completely destroyed what was left of their relationship. Carson manipulated me, Trevor said on the stand. He convinced me that faking my death was the only way we could be together. He told me he'd handle all the details, and I was too scared to ask questions. Carson's defense was that he was just trying to help someone he loved. But the jury didn't buy it. He was convicted on both charges and sentenced to 18 months in prison and ordered to pay restitution to the insurance company. Trevor wasn't charged criminally, but he lost his job and had to pay back the costs of the investigation. He also had to deal with the fallout from his family. His grandfather survived the heart attack, but their relationship was never the same. Emily, his sister, cut off contact with him completely. His parents tried to forgive him, but the trust was broken. I lost everything, Trevor told me when he called to apologize a few months later. My job, my family, Carson, everything. Trevor, you didn't lose everything, I said. You threw it all away. There's a difference. I know you probably hate me. Yeah, hate you, Trevor. I actually feel sorry for you. You were so afraid of being honest that you destroyed your entire life. Do you think there's any chance we could— No, Trevor, there's no chance. What you did to me was terrible, but what you did to your family was unforgivable. You put your grandfather in the hospital. You traumatized people who loved you. There's no coming back from that. It's been a year since the fake funeral, and my life has changed in ways I never expected. The story of my revenge went viral, and I ended up writing a book about the experience called Dead Wrong: How I Exposed My Fiancé's Fake Death. The book became a bestseller, and I've been able to leave my marketing job and focus on writing full-time. I've also started a podcast called Truth and Consequences, where I interview people who've dealt with betrayal and how they've overcome it. Marcus and I broke up after a few months. He was a great guy, but we both realized that our relationship had started as part of a revenge plot. And that's not a healthy foundation for love. We're still friends though, and I'll always be grateful for how he helped me that day at the funeral. I'm dating someone new now, a guy named Andrew Collins, who works as a veterinarian. He's kind, honest, and most importantly, he's never faked his own death. We take things slow, and I'm learning to trust again. Carson was released from prison after serving 14 months. He moved to Phoenix and started over with a new job and a new life. We don't speak, and I'm fine with that. My parents have slowly started to forgive him, but our relationship will never be the same. Trevor disappeared after the trial. Last I heard, he was living in Seattle and working as a freelance accountant. His family eventually forgave him, but it took years of therapy and rebuilding trust. Looking back, I sometimes wonder if I went too far. Could I have handled it differently? Could I have been more private, more forgiving? But then I remember how it felt to discover their betrayal, to be lied to about Trevor's death, to watch them fake grief at a funeral for a man who was very much alive. And I remember that I didn't choose to be betrayed. I only chose how to respond to that betrayal. I choose truth over secrets. I chose justice over enabling. I chose my own dignity over protecting people who had hurt me. And I'd make the same choice again. Some people say that revenge is a dish best served cold. I say that truth is a dish best served hot, immediately, and in front of everyone who needs to hear it. My name is Madison Mitchell, And this is my story. If you're dealing with betrayal, if someone you trust has hurt you, remember that you have power. You have choices. You don't have to be a victim. Choose the truth. Choose yourself. Choose to be stronger than the people who tried to break you. Looking for more? We've got 2 amazing stories ready for you right on screen. If this one touched you, these are absolutely worth your time. Click to watch them now. And hey, subscribe and hit that bell to never miss our latest uploads.